the truck.
Oh, no.
So he goes back to his car, and he said he threw up on the way because he was like in shock and had just seen something obviously pretty gross. And he said he just kind of sat there.
Oh, it must be gross. So think about it. If you saw a Bigfoot, it'd be like seeing a human dead.
Yeah.
Because it looks humanoid, so it'd affect you. Like, if you see a deer carcass, I'm like, whatever.
With its head just hanging off its body kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he said he just kind of sat there, and he said he was in this like daze, he was in shock in his daze, and he said it must have been 15, 20 minutes when he started seeing the flashing lights coming. Anyway, so the first cop turns up, and they sort of shut down the area, and he sort of overhears two cops talking, I believe, and there was like a younger cop and an older guy, and he basically got off their conversation that he was kind of listening in on, that there was a procedure, a protocol for dealing with this.
Wait, so this wasn't the first time?
This wasn't the first time, according to this guy.
What area of Canada is this in?
I think he lists it. There's a road that he lists, because people in the comments actually looked up the road, and he said, this road it was on was between this area and this area, and people in the comments actually looked it up to see.
Did they verify there was an accident there?
Yeah, there was an accident in the area at the time when this guy said this stretch of road makes sense, where it's between these two towns, exactly like he said. So there was a little bit of verification on it, I guess.
I bet the first 7 comments that were like, "This is bullshit. You're just lying."
Yeah. Everyone like shat all over this story. Yeah,
of course.
Obviously, as people on Reddit tend to do. But this guy like vehemently defends the story as being absolutely real. So it gets stranger. So one of the cops says, "Hey, follow me to the station. I need you to take a statement." So he's like, "All right." So he follows the cop to the station, and they put him in a room for a bit. They take his phone, and I think he had his laptop on him in a bag at the time. They took all his stuff from him, and he was like, he got the feeling like he's like, "Well, I didn't do anything wrong. What the hell's going on? Am I on trial here? What's happening?"
Yeah.
So they keep him in this observation room for a little bit. And he's there for a while until he said the strangest person in a black suit turns up.
No way.
Like a Men in Black type guy?
Yeah. And he said he was...
It's the FBI file.
Yeah. So he said...
The FBI just showed up. It's all connected.
Yeah. And this is where like the story was like got a little bit... okay. But I'll continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm entertained.
Okay.
So this... he said this guy was real odd looking. He was bald and he had like really pale skin. So he's like super gaunt, this guy as well, this Men in Black guy. So he just sits down and basically, in a threatening way, says, "Did you see what you think you saw?" And the German guy's like, "Yeah, I saw it." They didn't even ask anything else.
Sasquatch.
And then he says again, "Did you see what you think you saw?"
Oh, like he's implying, like,
right,
you didn't see what you think you saw.
And so, yeah, the German guy got the hint and said, "Okay, no, I didn't see that." And then so he made him sign something, and he said there wasn't any official sort of letterhead or anything on this piece of paper. He just signed like an NDA of some kind.
What?
And then left. And then and someone from another police officer or something came in, a lady, and basically said, "We looked up your work visa, and guess what? It got cancelled. You're going back home. So you got 6 days to get the fuck out of here."
Really? I mean, that's weird. I mean, if that's true, that's pretty weird.
So, and not only that, but he was not allowed back in the country ever again. He got blacklisted from going back into the country just because he stopped to help this trucker.
What?
And
who hit
some strange shit was going down. So this is his story, and he defends this thing like everyone's saying like this is bullshit, like. But I don't know. He's this is the only thing I've seen him post on Reddit.
It's like what are they protecting? So let's just say there's a Bigfoot species. Is it because they don't want people going there to find the Bigfoot species?
Like
what are they? Are they protecting them, or are they? Like what is it? What is it? They're so because it's elusive. It's not like anybody's has a
I don't know.
pet Bigfoot.
I don't know whether it's what am I trying to say here?
Well, the fascinating thing to me is like there's towns in New York that have laws to protect Bigfoot. You can't shoot a Bigfoot.
Are you
that's
serious?
Right. They're actual laws.
There's a place in New York, where you can't because too many people have seen it. But what's really fascinating about this case is a Men in Black type character showed up. 'Cause what are Men in Black associated with? Trying to cover up alien activity. And that's what they're mostly famous for, black helicopters and aliens. So what are we saying here then? If a Men in Black guy shows up to make people not talk about Bigfoot, does that mean Bigfoot's an alien? Does that mean it leads to more information that they don't want people to know? Because I feel like if they were just protecting it, they wouldn't have revoked his visa or make him sign an NDA. They'd be like, hey, just don't talk about this, buddy. And I don't think...
And not only that, too, like part of the story, he says when they gave him back his phone and his laptop, it had been completely wiped and reset back to factory settings as well. Like they just cleaned out everything.
Crazy.
They searched his car.
Wow.
And no, I mean,
but like, what's the reason? You know, like, okay, so he saw Bigfoot.
Secret? I don't know.
So, like, what are they studying them? They don't want anybody to know there's Bigfoot for real. Is Bigfoot working for the Canadian government?
Yeah, right. He's logging out there.
He has a red jacket and a funny looking hat.
You know what I mean? Like,
super polite though.
Yeah, always says sorry.
Well, my brother always talked about, they went to a lot of reservations and finding Bigfoot and talked to a lot of natives, and the natives were always reluctant to talk about it unless they really trusted you, because they, in some sense, are protecting it, and they don't want people to know about it because they're worried about getting hunted or people find it. Because as soon as one is really found or they know where it is, it's going to be on. Every redneck with a gun is going to go out there and try to shoot Bigfoot.
Right.
So, but I don't know. That's weird. See, to me, it just screams like something, like not just the existence of an ape creature, because why is that so spectacular? It's just kind of fun. Yeah. There has to be a bigger level to it. Like maybe it's interdimensional. Maybe some of the crazy
that's
theories
what I was
about
going
Bigfoot.
to say. Like maybe it's where it came from and how it got here.
Yeah, because a lot of times Bigfoot stories are associated with lights and UFOs, which people don't realize.
That's true.
So maybe there was a UFO sighting that same night, and maybe we should look for like research on that. And maybe that's associated with it. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right. You're totally right. And so maybe that was part of. It's almost like we were talking about UFOs. It's the same project. It's like they're looking for paranormal activity, and this is one of their cases.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a Yowie story from Australia later that I'll tell, but that also involves lights that turn up as well.
Oh,
really?
Very cool.
All right. So what is a Yowie?
A Yowie is basically the Australian version of a Bigfoot. Does
it look the same? You know, like
it's a pretty similar looking thing. Yeah, it's a big hairy man.
All right, so why don't you tell us the story?
Okay, well, let's just jump into it. So, this is one of my favorite Bigfoot, Yowie related stories, and it's so good because it's a supposed firsthand story from a guy who called into a late night radio show in Australia. And so it was this show called Overnights. And I think this is from like a couple of years back.
What part of Australia did this happen?
So the part where the story takes place is a region called the Pilliga National Park, National Forest. So the Pilliga is this is the forest that this stretch of road is in. But this stretch of road, it's 120 kilometers, and it's a really beautiful drive apparently during the day, but at night, it's apparently one of those places where people just refuse to drive during the night.
Really?
Unless they know they're just going to go straight and they're not stopping for anything.
Why?
People are afraid to go through it. And in this interview, which we'll play a clip of, the guy even explains that he's a truck driver, but he's delivering a vehicle from one place to the other.
What's his name?
Oh yeah, this guy's name's Bongo.
Okay.
He calls himself Bongo, and it sounds like a clown name, obviously, but in Australia, everyone has these like stupid nicknames, right?
Yeah. So that's not his real name.
No, it's probably not his real name. It's probably a nickname of some kind, stupid
Bongo.
nickname. But he calls into this radio program from a sanitarium, from a nut house, basically. He basically says in the story that he's in this place because of this thing that happened to him. Basically, it just sent him insane.
Oh my god.
So it's kind of hard to understand. It's a really thick Australian accent. I don't know if we'll listen to it, but maybe we'll have to pause and I'll have to translate a little bit from deep, thick Australian. So basically, the nutshell version of this is he breaks down. He runs out of fuel, actually, and he's basically in the middle of this long stretch of road. Someone pulls up, asks if he needs help, and he says, "Hey, I need to get fuel," and he's actually like lost. This happened back in the late 70s, so it was before Google Maps or whatever. So he's kind of lost. He's in the middle of this stretch of road, and the guy says to him, "Well, you can either go forward or back the way you came, but I don't think you're going to make it on this fuel, and I would jump in and get a lift." And this guy says to him, "Well, if you can, once you get to wherever you're going, the town you're going to, can you please call the NRMA?" So this guy says, "Look, I'll go there and ask for help, but I can almost guarantee no one's going to come out here during the night. No one comes out here." And this guy was kind of questioning like why that is to himself, but didn't think of anything. And he said, "God, don't worry about it. I'll just sleep here tonight in the car, and we'll work it out in the morning. And so hopefully someone can drop it by in the morning." So he decides to sleep in the car in his four-wheel drive, kind of passes out in the back seat, and during the night sometime, something starts rocking on his car, just shaking it. And he explains, I'll let him explain it, and then if you have trouble hearing what he says afterwards, I'll translate. But he kind of has this full-on like emotional breakdown as he's trying to tell the story, and it's really like creepy listening to it actually. So here it is.
He pulled the door off the hinges, and this thing it defies the explanation what it looked like. It was horrific, and it took me through the bush a fair way.
So it grabbed hold of you,
and we ended up at this. I suppose you'd call it a humpy sort of a thing, and this thing had a real fetish, obviously, for real thin, bow-legged, knock-kneed, white, hairy legs. He had pairs of legs hanging up, and when he realised that I was no good to him, he took me back. He took me back to the edge of the road, whatever it was. I assume it was a he. If it was a she, there's something wrong in the world. But
Bongo.
I never ever saw him again.
So anyway, like pretty creepy, like especially when he kind of breaks down at the end there. But a couple of things, I don't know if, like I said, a really thick accent. But he talks about before it kind of happened, he sees lights floating around the car,
which is common in Bigfoot encounters.
Which is very supernatural.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when this thing took him, it took him to, he calls it a humpy, which is basically a little hut. And he said like hanging from the ceiling of the humpy was pairs of legs or something like that.
Hairy bow-legged.
Hairy bow-legged legs.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's like
kangaroos have bow legs.
He said it was like he had a fetish for it, I think he says.
Yeah.
And that was just a really odd description of legs hanging. Like it was like he had like dismembered legs hanging from the ceiling or something. I don't know.
Weird.
But was he did he take him somewhere?
Yeah, this thing took him there.
Just to be clear, this thing was big enough to rip his door off.
Yeah, rip the door off the car. Yeah,
grabbed
off the truck,
him like a rag doll and chucked him in the woods.
Right.
And then took him to a cave where there's legs dangling.
Yeah, and then he says when the thing realized, and everyone's calling it a Yowie, but he doesn't actually ever give it a description. He's too freaked out to ever kind of. You can see every time he tries to remember what it looked like, he starts losing it.
Yeah.
But he says once it realized that I was no good to him, whatever that means.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Because he broke down after that.
Yeah.
That does not suggest anything pleasant.
Then it took him back to the roadside and just dropped him off somewhere. And then he waited for the next truck to come and pick him up. And then he checked himself into the madhouse, which, fair enough, if that happens to you.
I mean, how do you explain that?
I don't know. Like, either this guy is a really good actor, and it's like like that Art Bell thing where the guy calls in and he says he's worked at Area 51 or whatever.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's one of those kind of hoax things. Like, a lot of people try to look up the Happy Days retreat or whatever he was talking about, and they say it doesn't exist, but a few people found there's actually a Happy Days. It's called something different now, I think. But there is a sanitarium that is called that and used to be called that in Victoria.
But why the lights